In problem 4, we're asked to look at the bridge location and determine what percentage of its samples were in certain ranges of the PEL of 50. Which percentage of them were less than 10%, how many were between 10 and 50%, how many were in 50 and 100%, and the percentage of the samples that were above the PEL or above 100% of the PEL. So I've gone ahead and made this little table here just to give us a little workspace. And I've done it below the actual data table because I'm going to be filtering this. And when you filter data in Excel, it does kind of funny things with the row count, and I didn't want this to be affected by it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a table again by selecting all of the data and inserting a table. And my table does have headers, and I'm going to get rid of this silly formatting so it's a little easier to see. And now my data is easily sortable and filterable. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a filter on the location tab because I only want to be dealing with data from the bridge. Select OK, and now you can see that all of the viaduct and moving data has been deleted. Now I want to determine how many actual values we have here for the bridge because I'm going to need it to compute a percentage. So I'm going to just select all these, and you can see here that my count is 68. And just for reminding myself later, I'm going to type that in here just to remind myself. Now in this table here, I have these ranges set up here. And for each of them, I am going to filter our data so it only shows me values of lead concentration in this L column, which are below 10% or between 10 and 50%, and so on and so on. So it'll delete all other values besides those. And so for 10%, it will be 5. And then in these cells, I'm going to create a function which will count all of those values and then divide it by 68 to give me a percentage. Now, I initially thought I would use the function called count, and that counts all of the values in a specific range. But when I tried to do that, I realized it was counting the total values and not just the filtered values. So no matter what I filtered in this data table here, it would count all of them and not just the filtered data. So instead, I'm going to use a function called subtotal. Now, subtotal has a family of functions within it, which will only apply to data which is visible after filtering it. So if I do this open parentheses, and you can see the series of functions which are available to work with the subtotal function, and count is one of them. And so if I input the function number for count, which is 2, and then a comma, and then select all of the data that I want to work with, and close parentheses. So right now it's counting the total number of values, but we want to turn that into a percentage. So I'm going to edit this function again, and I'm going to take that final number that it calculated and divide it by 68, our total n. And that will give us 1 or 100%. And since we want it in percent, we can go up here to this number tab and put it into a percentage, and now we have 100%. It's 100% right now because we haven't filtered this yet for under 10%, so it's just counting all of them. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy this for the entire table. And you'll see that the numbers are a little bit off, and that's because we failed to put our range in absolute reference. And so instead of selecting all of this data, this one is selecting just one cell down because this is one cell down. So I'm going to undo this and change this function so the range is now in absolute references. And I'm going to do that by editing this function again, selecting the range that we had inputted, and pressing the F4 key. And you'll see the dollar signs pop up there, which means that that range is now locked in as a absolute reference. And I'm going to press enter, and now I can copy it for the rest of these values, and it'll be 100%. And I'm going to get rid of this border here, which happened when I copied it. So now for each of these numbers, I'm going to filter this data so it only shows me numbers which are within these range of the actual PEL, and then I will lock that value in as just a normal value and not a function. So starting with this, I'm going to filter this data to be less than 10%, so it only shows me numbers which are less than 10% or 5 micrograms per meters cubed. So I'm going to go up here, click this drop-down arrow, add a number filter of less than 5. So now it's only showing me the values which are under 5, and you can see that all of these have changed because they were copied functions. But for this one, which is the actual one that we wanted to be this number, I'm going to select this function, and I'm going to press the F9 key, and you'll see that it turns it into its corresponding value. It's no longer a function. And I'm going to go ahead and do this for each of these correspondingly with its percent range. So for 10 to 50%, I will filter this. I will clear the original filter, and instead now I will filter it between 5 and 25 because this is 10% and this is 50% of 50, the PEL. And you'll see these numbers have changed and this percentage has changed. And now I'm going to lock this number in as its value by selecting it and pressing F9 and enter. And now I'm going to do the same for 50 to 100%. So that will be between 25 and 50. And you'll see that it's the same numbers before because they were the same number of values. And I'm going to select it and lock it. And now I will find the percentage of values that were above 50 or above 100% of the PEL. And I will lock that. And now we have our 4 percentages. And if we did everything correctly, these will add up to 100%. And they do. So that looks pretty good.